Good morning, everyone. It is in the early morning, and the unseen is seen, and the fall of beauty and glory stands clear as a crystal. With cheers of love, I welcome you all for this two-day workshop on upscaling multimedia for lifelong learning and open and distance learning course in collaboration with Commonwealth of Learning Canada. The book of scripture says that two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Let's begin this great day with a prayer.
கருவாக்கி உருவாக்கி எனையாண்டு காத்தருளும் இறைவா நன்றி. எங்கும் நிறைந்தோனே எல்லை இலாதானே, எங்கேயும் எப்போதும் என் குலம் காப்பவனே. நெஞ்சம் துணிய துணையாய் வருவாய், நேர்மறை உணர்வுகள் பெருகிடச் செய்வாய். உடலில் உறுதியை பெரிதாய் தருவாய், உனை உணரும் அறிவை என்னுள்ளருள்வாய். சுற்றமனைத்தும் காப்பவனே, செய்தொழிலில் ஏற்றம் தருபவனே, எடுத்த செயலில் வெற்றி கொடு, என் ஆற்றல் பெருகிட அருளை கொடு. கருவாக்கி உருவாக்கி எனையாண்டு காத்தருளும் இறைவா நன்றி. வல்லமை தந்து நீ வளர்ச்சி கொடு, அகத்திலும் புறத்திலும் மலர்ச்சி கொடு. வளர்ச்சி கொடு, வளர்ச்சி கொடு, வளர்ச்சி கொடு, வளர்ச்சி கொடு.
Please be seated. We should always welcome the present moment, hoping for a better future. May I now request Reverend Dr. Lasu, the Executive Director of ACPR, to welcome the gathering.
அனைவருக்கும் இனிய காலை வணக்கம். Good morning to all of you. I'm here to say a few words, welcoming everyone present for this workshop, online and offline. Before I do that, I would like to give a brief sketch about Arupe Center for Policy Research, which is organizing this workshop in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Learning, primarily for the benefit of the people, representatives from various colleges in the neighborhood, towns, and villages. Many years ago, Arlanandar College, through ACPR, aimed at forging a link with the farmers in the surrounding villages, finding ways to accompany them in their march towards their progress. Our coordinator, Dr. Mabel, will speak more about this accompaniment in the afternoon session. We are very much indebted to Canada-based Commonwealth of Learning for its accompaniment with ACPR for over a decade. I'm pleased to inform you that we will have the benefit of listening to a few specialists from COLE, Commonwealth of Learning, during this session and in the session after. One of the fruits of collaboration between ACPR and COAL is an academic program that tries to equip the students with a skill in using multimedia for lifelong learning and for open distance learning. We are sure that this skill will help the students apply the knowledge in the respective disciplines for the benefit of the community, particularly for the farming community, which is under stress due to the aggressive invasion of the corporate interests. On behalf of Arlanadar College and ACPR, I welcome everyone who is generous enough to find time to participate in this workshop. We have all the important officials of the college amidst us. Reverend Dr. John Pragasam, the rector, Reverend Dr. Gilbert Camillus, the secretary, Reverend Dr. Godwin Rufus, the principal, and Reverend M. Joseph, the treasurer. Our hearty welcome to each one of them. We have Mr. V. Balaji, the Vice President of COAL, Canada, Dr. Moses M. Teniwa, Education Specialist, Agriculture and Livelihoods, COAL, Dr. Balasubramanian, ex-Vice President of COAL, to address us during the workshop. ACPR records its deepest appreciation for their presence, and we extend a warm welcome to each one of them. We are indeed privileged to have a few other experts with us today. Reverend Dr. G. Pushparaj, Palayamkote, St. Xavier's, former Secretary and Principal of Arlanadar College. Dr. N.K. Sudeep Kumar, Director of Extension Education, Tanuvas, Chennai, and Dr. A. John Peter, PGP Chair and Associate Professor, Bharatidasan Institute of Management, Tiruchirappalli. We extend a hearty welcome to all of them. Dr. P. Tamilvoli, who is a consultant to COAL, has been closely following ACPR and guiding it in all the activities with passion and commitment. But for him, even this workshop would not have been possible. ACPR warmly welcomes him. ACPR also has a few field partners. Notable among them are VDL and RSJA, that is Reddyar Chatharam Seed Growers Association. These organizations are represented today by its top officials, Mr. Kamaraj and Mr. Srinivasan. We heartily welcome them in our midst. The last but not the least are you participants from nearly 20 colleges. Your response has been encouraging. Hearty welcome to all of you. I wish you all a very exciting and fruitful time today and tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father, for your hearty welcome.
Reverend Father Rector, Reverend Father Secretary, Reverend Father Brother Treasurer, Father Lazar, the Executive Director of ACPR, Dr. P. Tamiluri, Consultant COL, Canada, respected resource persons, keynote address speakers, well-wishers of coal, active coordinators of ACPR and coal, and my dear professors and well-wishers of this wonderful day. I wish you all a very good morning. A very good morning to you all. The first question I would ask is, how are you all? Because COVID has put in such a situation. In A Tale of Two Cities, the beautiful novelist will begin like this. It was the best of the times, and it was the worst of the times. I'm sure COVID has put into the best of the times and the worst of the times. Worst of the times, we all know, because worst, we ourselves would have lost many of us. We would have lost our kith and kin, even some of our very close friends, some of our wonderful resource persons too, and so many other things. The worst of time is already known to us. But sometimes, even during this COVID pandemic, there's the best of times, because COVID has made many people to come together. And one such occasion is this beautiful gathering organized jointly by ACPR and the Commonwealth of Learning Canada. Dear friends, as an English professor, I thought of playing with the word farmers. Farmers, farm and arms can be got from that particular word. Usually, the politicians would boast words on farmers. They are the backbone of the society. Without them, the economy will be lost. All these things will be said, and they will go out of the place. Usually, farm and arms are divided in amidst farmers. Farmers actually do not have a farm. Unlike the Western countries, when you say a farmer, he or she will pull up the collars up and say, I am a farmer, like I am a scientist. But unfortunately, in India, and especially in Tamil Nadu, and very especially in Madurai area, Theni area, Uslampatti area, farmers do not have a farm. And though they have physical arms, actually their arms are all tied up. And usually they live on alms, piche. They expect piche from government. They expect piche, alms from local organizations. And this is the plight of the farmers. They try to live on alms. And we ourselves are happy about giving alms to the farmers. Alms of electricity, free electricity. Alms of rationed rice. Alms of weighing away their debts. Alms, alms, and alms. But ACPR, along with the management of our Arlanandar College, in hands with COL, Commonwealth of Learning of Canada, have come together to really give alms to the farmers. And that's why they laid a platform, the wonderful platform. The farmers have the hard work and the sincerity, and the fruits are all up in the air. All they needed was to pluck the fruits. Unfortunately, their hard work were not able to fetch the fruits. But coal, along with ACPR and Arlanandar College, Karmatur, gave them the platform to pluck the fruits of their own hard work. And really, we have to appreciate not only our college, the coal which gave the support. Our Jesuit former Superior General, Father Peter Hans Kolwambach, on higher education, stressed on 4 important C's. The first one is building competence. The second one is living out with commitment. The third one is consciousness. And the fourth one is compassion. Four C's: building competence, commitment, consciousness, and working with compassion. And this coal has also done the same thing with the support of ACPR. First, it gave the competence for the farmers. Competence for the farmers that you are special. All that you need is to come out together and learn certain things, building up the competence. And it gave also the consciousness, the conscience that you are in this particular stage and you need to rise more. The third one, all that you have to do is commitment. You have to attend the courses regularly, whether it's MOOC courses or other courses there. Come together, attend with commitment. And it is never competition. It is always compassion towards the neighboring farmers, neighboring people, and together building it up. And therefore, the other 4 E's automatically came along with our farmers. There was first E, effort, and they gained the second E, expertise, and it was the third E, effectiveness, and the last one, they also earned something. And that's why today the farmers of this locality are able to stand up with my sincere heart, with all my love. I really appreciate COL, and our Arulander College, the fathers who started earlier and who continue even now along with the ACPR. I thank them. And dear professors from 20 different colleges, you are giving them support. You are giving us the support, not just for the classes, but one day you will see the fruits of this courses, the fruits of these exercises, the fruits of coming together. One day, not someday, but surely a day will come where you'll see the farmers in happiness, farmers with arms in the hands to extend with compassion. On this occasion, I really thank everyone who come here for this 2-day workshop on upscaling multimedia for lifelong learning and open and distance learning courses. This is not just a course, but it is an offer which we take home to dispel darkness around the world. Wish you all the best and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your motivation words. Learning is a treasure that will follow its owner everywhere. Amongst us, we have Mr. Venkataraman Balaji, the Vice President of Commonwealth of Learn. Let me welcome, sir, you to address the gathering.
Thank you. The Rector, Reverend Dr. Prakasam, Reverend Dr. Rufus, Reverend Dr. Lazar, Dr. Moses Teniva, Dr. Bala, senior officials of the Arulanandar College, distinguished speakers, resource persons, and participants. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be able to speak to you this morning. As we all noted from abroad, India has recovered from an extremely difficult situation, continues to recover. The state of Tamil Nadu has also recovered spectacularly from an extremely difficult situation over the last 3 months. Our prayers are with you, and we know that you are continuing to face enormous stresses, and yet you have assembled here to celebrate farmers and to celebrate lifelong learning for farming. We are deeply grateful, we are honored, and we want to thank the organizers for the opportunity for call to be present here. I especially want to recognize the invitation from Dr. Mabel Jocelyn and the support that my colleague, Dr. Tamirudi, has continually provided to her. Now, as both my preceding speakers mentioned, the collaboration between CAL and the Arulanandar College through the ACPR has been going on for longer than a decade. Dr. Bala architected that, and a number of colleagues, senior colleagues from Arulanandar College and ACPR have carried it forward. Today, Dr. Moses Teniwa, who's himself a very distinguished expert in agronomy from Uganda, he's also a great scholar of culture and religion. He's taking it further towards social and economic empowerment of farmers through learning. As you know, L3F is not just one project of CAL, it is actually a flagship initiative of CAL. Throughout the last decade, Commonwealth of Learning was known across the Commonwealth for this particular activity. And it's also a supreme example of how models can spread south to south. Models built primarily in India, especially in Tamil Nadu, have moved across the Commonwealth and have reached many countries in sub-Saharan Africa, as well as in the Caribbean, and are also touching deep in the Pacific. I mean, when I say deep, it doesn't mean beneath the surface of the ocean. Deep in the Pacific means further beyond Fiji, like Tonga, for example. So this particular shining example of South-South cooperation is also premised on the idea that some of the preceding speakers have mentioned, that farmers today may be suffering from income poverty. They may be lacking access to good resources, good quantities of water and land. However, what L3F shows is that if they have social capital, which they achieve, which they acquire through learning, the social capital can lead to improved access to financial capital, and then it can pave the way for prosperity as well as empowerment. And that is the core message of L3F paradigm to all countries of the Commonwealth, that learning, when properly credentialed, can lead to improved farming and improved prosperity. Now, internationally, organizations such as the Rockefeller Foundation since the early 60s and the World Bank since then have advocated particular types of extension approaches, which meant that information flows down from institutions. Institutional knowledge flows down to farmers, and there is not necessarily a two-way process. It always is flowing down from great institutions towards farmers. But we know that it has not led to empowerment. It has actually led to a situation where farmers feel less empowered in terms of information. They are far too dependent on sporadic incidental flow of information. That's why L3F was conceived of, to change, to offer learning in such a way that it can lead to empowerment. Learning, we all know that learning without credentialing does not mean much. It's like you own property without adequate legal documentation. It doesn't mean much to anyone. The same way, learning without credentialing does not mean much in the eyes of the world. This is why L3F strove to create the linkages between informal learning and credentialing. Today, that has advanced to new levels, like Dr. Moses Teniwa would be able to tell you, Dr. Bala would be able to tell you today, how banks now are able to recognize learning acquired through farming, through our processes, and how that can be used for further buildup of both social and financial capital. And we have here amongst us distinguished colleagues such as Dr. Mr. Vidil Kamaraj and the leader of RSGA, and they would be able to share with you many more insights, which are extremely important, not only for Tamil Nadu and India, also for rest of the Commonwealth. All this goes to show that we just need to find the right way to link institutions, learning, and farming and credentialing. And this is where I would say the AAC and especially the ACPR have distinguished themselves in a very unique way. At a time when institutions have failed to build these linkages forward, the AAC system, ACPR, have been active partners, our collaborators. They accepted our proposition. They've stayed with us. And now they have proved that they've become totally new sources of outstanding information that can influence the lives of farmers, not only in Tamil Nadu, but elsewhere in Commonwealth. And I also see here my colleague, esteemed colleague, Dr. Sudeep Kumar, listed as a speaker. I hope he's here. And I want to compliment him for his willingness to work with us, because we are going to work with Dr. Sudeep Kumar in offering a MOOC in agriculture with the help of Indian Institute of Technology, IIT in Kanpur. And this is a very special course because there are not very many MOOCs in the world. There are over 14,000 MOOCs. There are less than 200 that work in that relate to agriculture. There are less than 10 that relate to animal and veterinary sciences. So again, one more distinction to the state of Tamil Nadu, that they would be leading this entire program, definitely in Asia, and if not, and in fact, I would say in all of Commonwealth. And therefore, I'm very, very pleased to be here, to be pleased to be amongst you when India has taken up some major advances in the form of UPI, in the form of linking certificates to DigiLocker system. These are all tremendous advances whose significance might not easily be understood when you view it only from inside India. From when viewed from outside, these are tremendous advances, and you are part of a great and dynamic milieu now, and where learning can be seen to make a real difference in the lives of farmers who do not have access to assets, who do not have access to adequate quantities of financial capital. This is one reason why, when Dr. Tamiroli and Dr. Mabel Jocelyn told me that I should be present to say a few words of felicitation, I agreed, because let me also add one more reason, that my roots are in Madurai. I mean, not very far from where this Hotel Germanus Inn is, my family resides. Although I have not maintained very close contact with Madurai as a city, I find that this virtual connection through the Arulanandar College is a matter of great satisfaction to me for being able to relate to my own roots. So I want to thank the organizers once again for the opportunity, and the distinguished participants. I wish them a great and enjoyable workshop experience. We look forward to learning more from you through the outcomes that you would be generating. Thank you once again.
Investments in agriculture are the best weapons against hunger and poverty and have made our life better for millions of people. Now it's a pleasure to listen to the felicitation of Dr. Moses Tenwa, the Educational Specialist of Agriculture and Livelihoods from COL Canada. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much for organizing this meeting and for inviting me to be able to speak. I recognize the presence of the Executive Director, Arupe Center for Policy Research, Dr. S. Laza. I recognize the Reverend Father Principal, Dr. Godwin Lufu. I recognize Dr. Balasubramanian, the former Vice President of CORE. I recognize Dr. Sudeep Kumar, the Director of Extension Education, Tanvas. I recognize the presence of the Vice President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Dr. Baraji. I also want to thank Dr. Tamizuri for organizing and Mabo Jocelyn for organizing, and all the fathers who have been able to contribute over the years to the development of SCPR to be able to harvest the fruits over the years. First, I'm glad to bring you warm greetings from the President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Asha Kanwa. She's pleased with the partnership with Arupe Center for Policy Research and Aurora Ananda College. I'm glad to perform this felicitation of SCPR and Aurora Ananda College on the basis of its achievements. Arupe Center for Policy Research is an initiative of the college aimed at undertaking research programs relating to rural livelihoods. Since it was started in 2007-2008, it is a rural-based organization working for research and training for peer learning and policy support. and it has done this diligently for the community, empowering them and giving them a platform to be able to harvest their fruits. AAC has excelled in its outreach to other colleges. That's why present are many colleges that have come for this 2 days meeting. And it has been upscaling the L3F in academic institutions through the center-oriented course on multimedia for lifelong learning and open distance learning. It has also been spearheading the formation of a network of coconut farmer producer organizations and also training the farmer producer organization leaders. It has been preparing fertile grounds for the expansion of business opportunities for farmer producer organizations by conducting training in producing and marketing of cohere peas. Has conducted a mobile MOOC titled The Livestock Disease Management in Summer for 1,500 learners. It has also conducted career-oriented course on multimedia for lifelong learning and open distance learning for 42 students from AAC. It has also given a continuous support to other colleges like Loyola College Metala and St. Xavier College Palaya Mukotai in conducting the above mentioned career-oriented course. It has provided support to 3 new colleges: Mangayakaras College of Arts and Science for Women, Madonna Arts and Science College for Women, CSI College of Arts and Science for Women. It has done content developed for this last season. It has developed 600 voicemails, 25 YouTube videos, 25 multimedia contents, and shared with learners and uploaded to YouTube. Also to the Lifelong Learning for Farmerspedia.com platform and social media platforms. The Lifelong Learning for Farmers program of Commonwealth of Learning is proud to be associated with SPR. The Lifelong Learning for Farmers program is a holistic approach to capacity building, which emphasizes continuous learning using ICTs and integrates human, social, and financial capitals. It is spread across the different regions of the Commonwealth, including Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean in over 10 countries. This year alone, over 10,000 farmers accessed loans worth approximately Canadian dollars 2 million and increased their incomes. An additional 72,000 farmers participated in blended learning and more than 8,700 farmers were reached using mobile MOOCs. Commonwealth of Learning built the capacity of 5 new organizations which are now leveraging ODL to implement the Lifelong Learning for Farmers model. A very important attribute of the Lifelong Learning program has been the informal and non-formal learning being recognized as collateral in India to increase access to credit from banks. So learning by the farmers has been recognized by banks so that they can be able to provide credit to the farmers. This effort is going to be replicated in sub-Saharan Africa as a way of scaling up the activities from the experience that has been gained in India. Underway is micro-credentialing, where learners would need to complete a certain number of activities, assessments, or projects related to the topic to be pursued, and so they get credit for, they get a certificate for what they have accomplished. That is very important because oftentimes the learning of farmers is not recognized. And if it's not recognized, then they cannot get benefit from it. But this requires the bankers, the bank staff to be acquainted also with the system. So they need also to be trained. Accordingly, in the new strategic plan of the Commonwealth of Learning, we shall be working with governments, private sector, financial institutions, and civil society to scale up the L3F model. Also, to develop technology innovations for reaching the unreached with equitable quality learning, and lead and disseminate research using a gender perspective on the impact of L3F. So for that, it requires the banks to be on board. And we are glad that the efforts of harvesting the benefits by the farmers has been recognized by the banks like Andhra Pradesh State Cooperative Bank and the National Institute of Bankers Management. They have contacted us to facilitate open distance learning program for their staff. So banks have realized that learning can be used as an asset for loaning the farmers. So that's a very important recognition that has been achieved. And we hope this can be scaled up across the state so that it is taken up. I wish to end by thanking the organizers for this event and also for the administration, the fathers and all of that, and also to thank the President of Commonwealth of Learning once again, and my colleague, Dr. Baraji, and also to thank Tamizori, our consultant who has been helping, and Mabel Jocelyn for all the organization. Thank you.
Listening to the words of great personalities. Indeed, today we are blessed with our beloved fathers. Let me invite our beloved rector, Reverend Dr. John Prakasam, to share his felicitations.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. It's nice to be here today, this morning, taking part in a serious deliberation on the topic of scaling multimedia for lifelong learning and open and distance learning course. Just a day before, I was in a Palamalai estate. It's a Jesuit plantation, the Kodai Hills. I want to visit my friend, Father Jesuit, Father Ignatius Amalraj, a Jesuit, who is looking after plantation there, mostly coffee growing and plantain. Just wanted to visit the place and share my joy with him. Basically, he has been there for just last 2-3 years only. He has been there before, not as an agriculturist. Basically, he's an engineer. He has put up a lot of buildings and he's also a good mechanic. But he has learned the art of agriculture there. After going there, he has about 50 workers, daily workers coming from the plains, doing the plantation work. And I was very much surprised the way he is organized the whole thing. He has got into what do you call the organic farming. And, yes, the coffee plants as much as 50 years old, but they are not yielding well. So he is planning to replace them with the new ones. And he is using organic manure and fertilizers to grow the coffee plants, particularly. And he showed me the place around and how he is doing. And he has planted the new saplings, 1 year old. They all look very fresh and beyond their own expectation. The growth has come up to that level. And father takes so much interest. He is not in agriculture. He has never studied in any school or college of agriculture. But through media, particularly YouTube, he has learned the art of organic farming. And he's teaching them also. How he teaches them, he has a classroom like this, and he has the multimedia, particularly YouTube demonstration. He shows them directly. Of course, they may not understand immediately, but he explains to them. Even if it is in English, he translates them and tells them, this is what you have to do and all that. And they are able to learn well, and they are implementing organic farming. It's a typical example, project of how to pass on the knowledge to our farmers. Of course, it's not a college, it's not a school, it is a farm where workers are doing their work, daily work, and the manager is able to train them. This is just an example where there is interaction between the education and the learners, farmers particularly. And the ACPR is a flagship program for our college. And our province, particularly the provincial, is so happy about ACPR that he often talks about it in public fora, about the province initiative itself, and he encourages other colleges also to take up this type of training our neighbors. And you know, Orlando College is a rural-based college, and we need to interact with our neighbors who are farmers. And ACPR is the right type of program that we are able to run for the benefit of our neighbors. And for that matter, recently for the provincial has given us Father Lazar exclusively to promote this ACPR, because earlier the directors were kind of part-time employees, in the sense they had other responsibilities, major responsibilities along with the ACPR. But now Father Lazar, his primary focus is ACPR, and that way, you know how much the Jesuits give importance to this program. And I'm very happy that when everything is going on online, you are able to have offline workshop like this today to bring in more participants from our neighboring colleges, as well as those colleges of who are interested in this program. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank both ACPR and COAL management for availing this opportunity to our neighboring colleges, so that this program is carried on at a wider level, so that the beneficiaries, the students as well as the farmers, get the benefit of our own experience. So on this grand occasion, I'd like to congratulate both ACPR and COAL and all those who are organizing this 2-day workshop. I'd like to congratulate them and wish them all the best for this day's success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father, for your cheerful words. With immense pleasure, I invite a dynamic secretary, Reverend Dr. Gilbert Camillus, to render his felicitations.
Reverend Father Rector, Reverend Father Principal, Reverend Father Lazar, Reverend Brother Joseph, our Treasurer, Mr. V. Balaji, the Chief Guest, Dr. Moses M. Tenua, the special invitees, the speakers, the professors, the staff from Arulanandar College, and the participants. Good morning. Arupe Research Center has chosen a relevant topic for these 2 days workshop in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Learning, Canada. I'm sure upscaling multimedia for lifelong process of learning through distance education will enhance the knowledge of the students, which will eventually enlighten the farmers in the rural areas. Father Fidelis Pereira from Goa uses youth power to promote agriculture. In an interview with Matters India, he explains that youth are not just the future of Goa and India, but they are also the present, as the future belongs to them. When he introduced the youth to farming, they came forward to support the farmers to cultivate paddy and later to harvesting. For the youth, the emerging farmers, it was a learning process, and for the regular farmers, it was a much needed support. We are in the era of communication and technology. Multimedia will be a suitable platform to reach out to the young and the old and the farmers. By improving the quality of multimedia, one can clearly communicate the ideas to all. I'm sure that the efforts taken by ACPR through Reverend Dr. Lazar will be more useful for the students and for the farmers. I'd like to appreciate Reverend Father Lazar and his team for organizing this useful and meaningful workshop for 2 days. I wish you success in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for your motivational words. Gratitude is the best attitude. Let me invite Dr. C. Mabel Joshlin, the program coordinator of ACPR.
A warm and a lovely morning to the most valued and respected management fraternity of AAC, our distinguished chief guest, learned resource persons, and participants. I feel honored and privileged to propose the vote of thanks on this special occasion. I wholeheartedly thank the management fraternity for gracing this inaugural function by their presence amidst their hectic commitments. On behalf of the ACPR team, with immense sense of gratitude, I thank Reverend Father Rector for having blessed this venture. Thank you, Father. My special thanks to Reverend Father Secretary, Arlanandar College, for his words of appreciation. Thank you, Father. A constant supporter and real performer of his responsibilities is our Honorable Reverend Father Principal and Director of ACPR. Thank you, Father, for your presidential address. I offer sincere thanks to Reverend Brother Treasurer for supporting us with his gracious presence. My heartfelt thanks to the most indispensable person and incredibly dedicated person, our Reverend Father Executive Director of ACPR. Thank you, Father, for welcoming the gathering. On behalf of the entire ACPR team, I submit my sincere thanks to Dr. V. Balaji, Vice President Coal Canada, who delivered an inspiring chief guest address, and also thank him for the suitable inputs he gives whenever requested for the AAC L3F program. I submit my deep sense of appreciation to Dr. Moses Teniva, Education Specialist, Livelihood and Agriculture in Coal Canada, who facilitated the workshop and who is the direct contact person in Coal for AAC, for closely monitoring and providing inputs to achieve the intended results. I place my gratitude to Dr. Balasubramaniam, ex-Vice President of Coal, for accepting to deliver the keynote address, and he is the one who initiated the L3F journey of AAC 9 years back. My special thanks to Reverend Father Pushparaj, former Secretary and Principal AAC, and the present General Secretary Consortium of Christian Minority Higher Educational Institutions, for your acceptance to share your expertise. I submit my sincere thanks to the resource persons, Dr. N.K. Sudeep Kumar, Director of Extension Education, Tanuvas, Chennai, and Dr. A. John Peter of Bharatidasan Institute of Management, Trichy, for their acceptance. Thank you, professors. My special word of mention to Dr. Tamiloli Consultant Cole for supporting us in all our endeavors. The last but not least, I thank all the participants from various academic institutions for their valuable presence in the workshop. I acknowledge the special efforts of the technical team headed by Dr. Srinivasan for airing this program live. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, it is time for tea break, and the tea will be served inside the room. Thank you. Sir, we request you to unmute your.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, let me test the audio. Hello, could you hear me? Hello, could you hear me? 1 minute. Let me. Hello, could you hear me now? Hello, could you hear me now? தமிழ் கேக்குறதா? Okay.
So we once again invite Dr. Bala Subramanian, ex-Vice President of COL, to deliver the keynote. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Could you hear me properly? Is the audio clear? Hello, is the audio clear?
Yes, sir. The video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to be in this meeting, and I'm not very happy because I'm staying away all the way from Coimbatore and I'm not able to participate in this lovely meeting. I would love to participate in this meeting since I had a 10 years of association with Arulanandar College. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Could you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, could you hear me properly? Is the audio clear?
Sir, you can continue, sir.
Hello, is the audio clear?
Yes.
I can go ahead, right? Okay, because I didn't get, okay, I'll go through that. Okay, once again, I hope my audio is clear now. I'm very happy to be part of this particular meeting with Arulanandar College. But I'm also unhappy because I've not been able to participate directly in this meeting due to various circumstances. I hope that in future I will have an opportunity to visit Arulanandar College again. I'm particularly happy that Reverend Father Dr. Pushparaj is there, and our association goes back to 30 years. And I've been associated with him in various capacities. So I'm looking forward to meet him also in future. So let me make a, my keynote address will focus on lifelong learning. Please note that I am not talking about lifelong learning for farmers. I am talking about lifelong learning. What is lifelong learning? How do we define lifelong learning? And how do we see this in the broader context of education, learning, training, etc.? So let me share my screen. I hope I can see. Please let me know whether you can, can you help me to share the screen? Hello? Yeah, I can, now I'm sharing. Okay. Can you see the screen now? Okay. So I'm now talking about what you call the lifelong learning for farm, lifelong learning. And as I said, I'm not talking about lifelong learning for farmers or agriculture extension at this point of time. It is very important for us to understand what lifelong learning means and how do we operationalize, how do we approach lifelong learning. And then you should need to look at the role of open and distance learning in lifelong learning, particularly the multimedia based open and distance learning. So if you have to go to the lifelong learning, I think we also need to understand what is sustainable development. Sustainable development refers to the human society meeting its present need without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. When Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 17, talked about 17 goals, they were actually talking about 5 major goals, which are the people to end poverty and hunger, prosperity to ensure prosperous and fulfilling lives in harmony with nature, peace, faster, peaceful, and just inclusive society, planet, protect our planet's natural resources and climate for future generations, and partnership. This is how the partnership works. Like for instance, Commonwealth of Learning in Canada, working with Arulanandar College in Madurai, and working with Farmers Association. This is the kind of a partnership which will take us to sustainable development. You all know we have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the goal 4, which is the education, the quality education for all, is supposed to help in achieving the 5 P's, the planet, prosperity, peace, ending poverty, etc. How do we take the 17 goals? How do we use the 17 goals to reach the 5 P's? As I said, the goal 4. The goal 4 of 17 Sustainable Development Goals talk about ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. We are talking about lifelong learning for all, from children to farmers to health workers to senior citizens, the opportunity for all. But are we clear about lifelong learning? Whether the Sustainable Development Goal itself is clear about lifelong learning? I have certain doubts. I'm not sure whether we are very clear about Sustainable Development Goals, definition of lifelong learning. And this is where I think Arulanandar College also has to be should have a very clear perspective of what is lifelong learning. How do we operationalize lifelong learning? Now, if you look at the Global Education Monitoring Report team, which in 2015 estimated that the low and the lower income countries would need at least $5.1 trillion or $340 billion per year to reach the Sustainable Development Goal 4. And now with COVID, the pandemic COVID, the estimate has gone up to $504 billion per year in poorer countries. Can they afford? In other words, the conventional didactic, the teacher-student, the extension officer farmer, face-to-face learning is becoming a challenge because the cost is so huge. $504 billion per year. None of the poor countries. I mean, at least Asian countries are a bit better, but look at the African countries. They don't have any money to reach this goal. So we have problem in this conventional didactic. When I say didactic, I'm talking about a teacher and a student present in the same place and the teacher teaching and the student listening. This is the conventional education system, the conventional extension system, and this is not working. So we need to look at lifelong learning beyond this didactic mode of education, and they require a totally different perspective. And it is very important to raise this question: do we have that perspective? Modern education, training, learning definitely has created impact. School education, tertiary education, and higher education have led to better private and social returns to investments, no doubt. There are some benefits due to this modern didactic education. But the ability of modern education, training, and learning to reach thousands, millions, and millions of people is being increasingly challenged. You know, if you take the world, there are more than 500 million illiterate population, and we don't have any system to reach all of them. Hardly 20% of students who pass the secondary education go for tertiary education. That means 80% of those who are passed for secondary education do not go to the tertiary education, because the conventional education has a lot of limitations in accepting and enabling the access for these kind of people. The returns to education and investment is also declining, and there are a lot of inequalities seen in this area. Now, the most important, the ability of education. When I say education, I'm not talking just the school education. I'm also talking about agriculture extension, health extension, so many areas. The ability to, create an impact on empowerment, it is not yet fully established. Education has a problem. Education is not able to reach the large scale of people. Even if it reaches, it is not able to create the kind of an outcome. The outcome, what I would say, is something like an empowerment. It is not been happening, and studies have shown this. Now look at this very interesting quote from the World Bank. There is a learning crisis. It is not the education crisis. World Bank is not talking about education crisis. There is a learning crisis. Large number of students through the school. Why school? Even in some of the colleges, higher tertiary education, do not have the basic skills in calculating a change from a transaction, reading a doctor's instruction, understanding bus schedules, let alone building a fulfilling career or educating their children. World Bank talks about this, and they want the world, saying that while going to school cannot be equated to a learning revolution. In an Asian country, I wouldn't mind saying which country it is, in India, nearly 3/4 of third graders cannot solve two-digit subtraction problem. And by grade 5, half of them still cannot do so. This is a very, very pathetic situation. We cannot equate going to school to getting education. These are two different things. Now came the COVID. Already there was a problem with the pandemic. we have more problems. Over 200 million children will be out of school in 2030. Studies show that 500 million people, mostly farmers, women from the poorer communities, will not have access to literacy education. 90% of all students are right now out of school because of the pandemic. Okay, the remote learning, we are talking about multimedia learning, still has to reach 500 million students who do not have access. And hardly 30% of the children from the poorer communities are expected to complete their primary or secondary education. Now, these are the biggest challenges the COVID has brought in. Now, we need to look at this in a different way. Look at Albert Einstein. He says we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. You cannot solve the problem of education with the same thinking on the didactic school of education. You need an alternative perspective. You need a Promethean perspective. So you need a totally an out-of-box solution. And that's where the lifelong learning comes in. So what is lifelong learning? The conventional didactic learning, resource intensive, problems of quality, limited ability to create outcome and impact, lack of dynamism to cope up with changes and challenges, not very flexible and not very reflexive. This is the biggest problem with a conventional education. Mind you, when I say conventional education, I'm also talking about the conventional extension system in agriculture, in health, in other sector, veterinary science. You take all the sectors, you have the same problem. Now, why lifelong learning? The quick sunset and sunrise in economy, society, and technology. Future shock will not be in distant future. It will be tomorrow or today evening. Learn to respond. None of us knew in the month of October 2019 or November 2019, we always thought that COVID, corona, is somewhere in small corner of China and will not have any impact. Within 4 months, it changed the entire world. All of us are wearing masks, all of us are scared, and we are not able to go to schools, offices have been closed, the entire world economy has changed. So the future shock is not in a distant future, it has come now. Now, how do we learn to respond to this? It comes from the lifelong learning perspective. To move away from the conventional, that is, when you say learn to respond, that is what we call new normal. Lifelong learning improves our understanding of the world around us, offers us with more and better opportunities, and enhances our quality of life. And what does lifelong learning say? Its aim is to create a learning society more than creating a school-going society, or more than creating a training attending society. It is creating a learning society. How do we learn on our own? How do we use multimedia to learn on our own? What are the theoretical perspectives in such a learning? Many are still unable to differentiate between lifelong learning as a common sense principle and lifelong learning as a practical solution of learning from the cradle to grave, and lifelong learning as an educational principle that has to be realized through policies, programs, and projects. We have this lifelong learning for farmers project. What do we mean by lifelong learning? How do we differentiate with a conventional learning? I think it is very important for us to understand. Now, I am offering 3 perspectives, what we call triadic approach to lifelong learning. You need 3 perspectives when you look at the lifelong learning. Okay. Let me start with the first perspective. The first perspective always looked at teacher-student, school-student, extension officer, farmer, right? It was a typical didactic. But when it came to lifelong learning, it is a school, student, and the family and the community. You need to link the three aspects, the three major players. Unfortunately, for a very long time, in the conventional education, training, and extension program, it was always the two parts, the trainer and the trainee. We never looked at the role of family and community. The pandemic, COVID, has shown that only when the family and community respond, we are able to help the children with education, we are able to help the farming society, we are able to help the women, marginalized women groups, only when we take the third dimension, which is the family and community. It was not there in the conventional education paradigm. We need to bring it. And recent studies by UNESCO shows that the children whose parents are educated are responding better in this COVID situation than the children whose parents are not educated. How do we prepare these children? How do we support them? How do we support a farmer? Because a farmer, we don't see him an isolated student. A farmer is a part of a family. A farmer is a part of the community. Only when the family learns, the community learns, the farmer also learns. This perspective was very limited in the conventional system. So in a lifelong learning, we are talking about reaching the entire society, reaching the entire community. Then only the lifelong learning takes place. This is my first perspective. Okay. As I said, a parent in Kenya, when he talked about this thing, she came out with a very brilliant explanation. She said, I did not attend any formal school, neither do I know how to write. How will I help my child who needs my help? Yet I don't know how to read. Imagine nearly 40 to 60% of the children in the poorer community in India are facing the same problem. The farmers whose family and the community are not trained also face the same problem. Realizing such situations, the countries like Rwanda have taken up steps to support the parents, the communities through ICT. So it is very important that we need to look at a triadic perspective, that it is not only the teacher student, the trainee trainer, we also should look at the community, the family, along with the trainee trainer or the teacher student. Okay, my second perspective. The second perspective is the conventional education and the extension system is based on pedagogy. I'll come to that, what pedagogy means. But when it came to this thing, you also need andragogy. And what we are now talking about is heutagogy. I will explain these. Unless we bring all these things together, we will not succeed. Now, a pedagogy is a theory of teaching, a teacher teaching a student, an extension officer teaching or training a farmer is a pedagogy. Andragogy is a theory of a self-directed learning. It is mainly for adults, it was originally conceived. In andragogy, the teacher acts as a facilitator, the student himself or herself learns on a own. Now, andragogy has been there for a very long time, and agriculture extension, farmers extension had not used this theoretical perspective of andragogy for a very long time. We still use the pedagogy for a very long time in agriculture extension. And the third important area which is emerging and which is becoming stronger in many countries and which has acquired a lot of importance after the COVID is the heutagogy. It is a theory of a self-determined learning, somebody learning on their own, self-directed, self-determined learning. Now, Australia has created the pedagogic principle for all its doctors, nurses, and paramedic courses so they can learn on their own. It is a self-determined learning where you do not have a teacher that's sitting there. The system helps them to learn. Now, your multimedia course on lifelong learning has a very important component of pedagogy. How do you make people to learn on their own? Look at the children at your house. You gave them a mobile phone. They learned it quicker. They know more about mobile phone. They know more about computer than you. They have learned on their own. It is self-determined learning. In fact, in many places, the children teach the parents, the elders, how to use these ICTs. Now, for a very long time, we were under the impression that andragogy and utagogy are for adults, but we did not use them in agriculture extension. Now, the COVID has proved that andragogy and utagogy are not only meant for adults, it is also meant for children, because children need to learn on their own. And more important, the farmers have to be brought into the andragogical and utagogical system in a bigger way. The extension system should be a facilitator, not just as a trainer. Now, what does andragogy and utagogy do? It enhances the learnability. It is not learning. Learnability is the ability to learn on their own. That is a very important condition. And multimedia and ICTs play a major role in improving the learnability. A society is a learning society when its learnability quotient goes up. When the learnability is low, however much you give facilities, however much you give infrastructure, however much you give support, it won't work. So how do you promote learnability? How do you enable, how does a child learn a mobile phone without a teacher? That's a learnability. You need to encourage that. Now, if you take the teachers, also the agriculture extension officers, veterinary officers, they have been trained mostly in pedagogy, in teaching, not in andragogy and pedagogy. Even in higher education, in the colleges, in the universities, the teachers are not aware, the lecturers are not aware of these principles of andragogy and pedagogy. And that's a big challenge, and I think we need to integrate that. And when Arulanandar College talks about multimedia course, it should focus on how to enhance the learnability, how to bring the principles of andragogy and utagogy. There are a lot of literature. Right now, I don't have time to go deep into all those subjects, but I would recommend the Arulanandar College to look at these issues and see how this could be integrated into your multimedia course framework. The third perspective is integrating the formal, informal, and the non-formal systems. The formal system is the education systems, schools, colleges. The non-formal system is the agriculture extension systems, the health extension, veterinary extension. They are all considered as non-formal systems, but there's a very strong informal learning. Many of us learn computers through an informal way. Now, we have challenges in understanding this informal systems. We require more efforts to integrate non-formal and informal systems. And if you look at the South African lifelong learning education policy, they have come out with a very interesting policy statement. Lifelong education is more comprehensive and visionary concept, which includes formal, non-formal, and informal learning, extended throughout the lifespan of an individual to attain the fullest possible development, personal, social, and professional life. It views life in its totality and includes learning that occurs in the home, school, community, workplace, farm, and through mass media and other situations and structures for acquiring and enhancing enlightenment. In other words, we are talking about cradle to grave learning systems. And that's where your multimedia comes in. How do I use multimedia to continuously learn? How do a poor woman from a remote village use such multimedia so that she can continuously learn, understand the situation, and develop herself and attain empowerment and enlightenment? Now, if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, the world all over, including the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, it is more on formal education. The emphasis on non-formal and informal learning is very limited. There is no clarity on lifelong learning, and definitely even SDG requires a fresher perspective. Arulananda College, I think you will do a great service if you can develop a perspective on lifelong learning, particularly in the context of integrating non-formal and informal learning with the formal learning. So what do we do? How do we move forward? We need to integrate the aspects of pedagogy, andragogy, and pedagogy, and non-formal, formal, and informal learning in teachers' training, in lecturers' training, in extension officers' training. Many of the extension officers are not aware of it. We need to integrate well-planned system in integrating the community and family in education and training. We should not see farmer in isolation. We should not see a student in isolation. We have to see them as a part of a family and a part of a community. Tertiary education, I think even college teachers, the professors, the extension officers should understand what andragogy and pedagogy is. And more important, in addition to subject matters, school and higher education students should be facilitated and evaluated in improving their learnability. One of the important issues before Arulananda College, when you are talking about this multimedia course, is how would you evaluate whether the course has enhanced the ability of the students' learnability? You need to look at that. There is a whole theory on this. The corporate sector has moved in the right direction, but unfortunately, the civil societies and the education sector has not looked into this. Has your multimedia course enabled a student to improve his or her learnability? I think it's a very important issue. I think you need to look at that. And thanks a lot. I'm not sure how I could answer the questions, but I'm ready to listen to some of your comments and, if possible, respond within the time limit. Thank you. Okay. I, I will mute it. Yeah. Was it? Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait for your pause. Over. Tamil. Hello. I thought I have completed it. Katya, Patya. Where should I continue from? Oh yeah. The college is not there in the screen. Oh, in the Zoom, I'm not seeing them. But can you see me in the screen? Hello. Hello.
Dear participants, if you have any questions,
Yes, Tamil.
dear audience, any questions? It's time for discussion.
Here, I will just give a four question. Let him give his remark, or he may ask something. Good afternoon, Bala. I'm happy to be here as a part of this session, and I'm also happy to listen to you after a gap of 10 years. And my question to you is, how do you integrate pedagogy and the andragogy and pedagogy in a family situation? Because the lifelong learning takes place in the family. Then it comes into the community. It doesn't come into the structured institutions. So if you could give us, based on your observations, how to integrate the pedagogy and andragogy and pedagogy in your family situation. Thank you. Thank you, Bala.
Am I audible now?
Mute your.
Yeah, I have muted. Unmuted. Okay. Further, I think it's a very important question. And that is where the first, when we target an education or a training, we always target an individual. We always target a farmer. We target a very specific entity. Now, we need to look at it in a much broader perspective. And when we say a lifelong learning for farmers, we should be saying actually lifelong learning for farming communities and farming families. I think that mindset, is very, very important. Given that, how do we operationalize it? When we go to a lifelong, when you take a farmer is not a homogeneous community. There are farmers who are landlords, their lands are there. There are agricultural laborers. There are women laborers in the family. There are children in the family who also play a role in the agriculture. Now, when we develop our entire system of learning modules, we need to look into the priorities of each of these stakeholders. We have never looked at them as a stakeholder. You know, when we started the lifelong learning for farmers family, from farmers in Madurai district, one of the important lessons we learned in Dindigul, not in Dindigul, in Teni, when we started with the mobile phone based learning, and when we said that she should record all her learning in a note. Every learner, a woman learner, should record all her learning in a note. Now, many women learners came and said that we are illiterate, so we don't know how to do this. We cannot enter those things. We said, why don't you take care of your other people who are learned in their people who are literate, say your children, your husband, your spouse, you bring them together. Now, in that process, that mobile phone earlier was only with the woman when she was learning. But when we insisted this, the mobile phone became a central item among all the family members. So the family members, the husband, the spouse, the children, they started listening to these agriculture messages. They helped her to note down this thing. In this process, we started bringing the entire family. But the mistake we made, there was a mistake. The mistake we made was that our syllabus, curriculum, was only for that woman laborer. We never had a curriculum for the children. We never had a curriculum for the spouse because we were targeting only that labor. So when you bring in pedagogical principle, etc., you need to develop a curriculum system which is not exclusively for the target learner. You also, in other words, what Honorable Abdul Kalam used to say, you have to have a core, you have to have periphery. We never had a periphery, we never thought about it. So in any multimedia course when you're talking about, you need to address this entire family systems, look at their priority, individual priority, and you need to integrate this in your curriculum, in your technology. In particular, if technology has to be domesticated so that the woman, an illiterate woman, can help to do this, the child has to be brought into the picture. The children who have played a major role in many of this lifelong learning for farmers program, not only in India, even in Africa, it's the children who are playing. And unfortunately, we didn't look at the dimension, we learned it very late. So you have to have a broader picture that it is not the farmer we are talking about. We are talking about the farm families. You need curriculum for all these people. I hope I have tried to understand, tried to answer some of your queries.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you. Go ahead. Any other question? Bala.
Dr. Bala, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I am.
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
I'm John Peter, coming from a business school. So even in business schools today, the new age learning curriculum, we are integrating the very aspect of learnability and promoting agile learners. And the terminology is gaining ground today, learning agility. So you have rightly said, and your presentation was fantastic, that promoting agile learners, the learnability of the student and community is a great task. And I am sure that this program will take us forward in this direction, even guiding the whole educational sector in the country. So this program has got the potential to guide educationists, educational system itself. So thank you very much for giving us that insight.
Professor, I'm very thankful for you to raising this issue. I think this is where Dr. Mabel and the Arulananda College should play a role. How do we integrate this issue of
Besides, there was electricity connected. So let us go ahead with our program. We can go ahead.
Thank you for your valuable speech and wonderful presentation, sir. I'm sure Dr. Balasubramanian's presentation has provided food for our thoughts, and it has definitely intrigued in us the trillion-dollar question about lifelong learning. Thank you so much, sir. With this, we move on to technical session 1, and the title is Concepts and Frameworks. Let me invite Reverend Dr. G. Pushparaj, SJ, former Secretary and Principal of Arulananda College, to deliver the speech. Over to you,